I am so sorry. Yes, I said Miyamoto instead of Yamamoto. Because I'm not fully paying attention. Okay, let's look at another Game Boy game. Let's take a quick look at the Metroid game that oftentimes gets forgotten because it has not been remade. We will take a look at, let me update the stream. Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. This is a game that I very much wish that they would remake, because this game is really, really awesome. This game takes place after the original Metroid, in which Samus Aran went to the planet Zebes to defeat the vile Mother Brain in her attempt to use the Metroids for galactic domination. After the near catastrophe that took place there, Samus Aran, bounty hunter, was sent to the homeworld SR-388, the homeworld of the Metroids, to eradicate the Metroid threat once and for all by eradicating every single one of them in existence. And that is our job. We are not actually fighting Mother Brain. We are not fighting bounty hunters of any kind. We are fighting the Metroids. And our goal is to eradicate them. There are 39 of them, which you can see in the bottom stat screen. We will need to power ourselves up. For some reason, and I never have understood why, Samus Aran decides to leave her power-ups behind every time she goes on a mission. They did explain it somewhat, thankfully, in some of the games, such as Metroid Prime, I think, Metroid Prime 2, I know they did. But this one doesn't make a lick of sense. You had all the power-ups from the original Metroid, but she just doesn't have them. Now, thankfully, she does start out with missiles. In fact, we have 30 of them. Which is good, because we can only destroy the Metroids with missiles. And we're about to encounter our first Metroid. Okay, it's going to take a little bit longer than I expected. Hold on. Now, as far as Samus goes, she controls a little bit stiff, but somewhat more fluidly than she did at the same time in the original Metroid. Her jumping is a little bit stiffer, but at the same time it feels like I have slightly more control over it, if that makes any sense. Oh, and we have the first Metroid, and we see for the first time, figure out, nope, I gotta remember how to switch my weapons. Hold on. I need to change, oh wait, hang on. There we go. Sorry, I'm using a Super Nintendo controller and I can remember exactly what button it was. We see for the first time Metroid Evolution. Turns out that, well, or gestation, I suppose, Metroids actually in their home environment will change into different forms over time. And they have various stages. That was an alpha Metroid that we just fought. I believe that's an alpha. That or it's a beta. Forget if the regular standard Metroids are alphas or if they're first evolution in the Pokemon sense. it's alpha. But there's alpha, there's beta, there's gamma. I think there's a delta. And there is another type of Metroid, which we will see. Well, we're not going to see in this game though, because this game is actually fairly decent indeed. I'm only going to play through kind of the first area, get a feel for it, because we've got other games I want to show off. That and this game can actually get tricky, and you can wind up spending a lot of time wandering around because this is the last Metroid game prior to having an in-game map. So you have to rely on your memory and customly drawn maps in order to actually find your way around SR388. Or if you're in the modern era, you can just go to something like VG Maps or Game Maps or something like that to find out what the mapping is like. This is the first US Metroid game to feature saving instead of passwords. So that does mean no Justin Bailey or any kind of code like that, but it also means you don't have to write down a series of complex letter and number combinations, of which you can easily mess up the copying, such as mistaking a lowercase 0 for, or a lowercase O for a 0 or something. It does, however, mean that you are relying on a battery backup, and like all things, battery backups will, in time, stop working. And I'm pretty certain this one is stop working. So if I turn it off, I think I'm going to lose all of my save data. That's just how it worked back in the days, folks. We didn't have saving on the system, we just had batteries. Now, of course, in Japan, the original Metroid did actually have a backup feature. It actually did feature saving. It came out on the Famicom disk system, which was a disk drive which attached to the Famicom, Japanese NES, and allowed you to actually save your games on the game disk, thus meaning that you can pick right back up where you left off. That's just how the original Metroid was. This is how Kid Icarus was. This is how Legend of Zelda was. It's also, well, no, they actually use something different for Excite-Bike. There are actually several different mediums for saving data. In addition to disk drives, there was also the actually tape decks that you could hook up to the NES. I think the tape deck was only used with a few games, such as Excite-Bike in Japan, which is why, for those who have wondered, if you play the original Excite-Bike on the NES and you create a custom track and you go to save, you can't actually save it. Same goes for some other games that allow you to customize it, such as Mach Rider or Wrecking Crew. In Japan, you could actually save that data and save it for later to show to your friends, but on the NES, we didn't have tape backup, which did actually use regular cassette tapes. We just had to remember what we had put down, maybe write down the directions for doing it, and put it all in again. Now, one thing, this is an example of what I had mentioned previously when I was playing through Super Mario Land, about how that in the follow-up they zoomed in the screen a bit. Well, that's exactly what they did here as well. They zoomed in the screen, meaning that the environments are technically a little bit smaller than they would probably have been in if this came out for say the NES. But it's designed around the idea that you're zoomed in. It's designed around that concept, meaning that again, it is still technically possible to get cheap shotted, but the game is designed to where that you shouldn't have to deal with that kind of problem. Okay, we can't go up. We're gonna have to go through. Now, if you pause you notice that the Metroid icon changes to an L. Now what this does, the way the game is set up is the planet is divided into different sections. And each section is kind of cordoned off by usually a lava flow of some sort. Apparently, the Metroid survival on SR388 has some sort of syncing mechanism with the actual planet itself. And after you defeat all of the Metroids in a given area, then the landscape will actually change and lava will drain away from a particular area, allowing you to move into it, where you will have a whole new set of Metroids to have to defeat. I believe the game is divided up into something like 5 different sections, but I could be slightly off with my calculations. It has been quite a while since I played this game, so you will have to forgive me. Alright, and we have our first power-up, the bomb. Again, I just don't know why Samus wouldn't keep the bombs with her at the very least. The bombs are one of the most useful power-ups she has. Okay, and we have a missile power-up. They did nerf the bombs a little bit by making it to where you couldn't use the classic bomb jump nearly as well. In fact, I think that you can't use it at all. Excuse me, given that you can only drop 3 bombs. You might could with expert timing, but I do believe it is significantly more difficult. They took the opportunity, as opposed to the original Metroid, to refine the level design, make it not feel quite so repetitious. Because that was one thing about the original Metroid, that it does make it somewhat of a pain to go back to when you play today. The fact that there's so much repetition of design. You'll see an area that looks exactly like an area that you saw several screens ago. It also means that it can be very confusing trying to find your way through. Now, admittedly, this game is not exactly overflowing with unique stage design in every single area, but it's still not as bad as it was on the original Metroid, so still, it's an improvement. Okay, and we see a broken Metroid shell, which means that there is an evolved Metroid somewhere nearby. Okay. Let's see what we've got here. A mazy area. And we have the Spider Ball. Now, Spider Ball doesn't show up again until the Metroid Prime universe, or the Metroid Prime games. Spider Ball allows you to use your Morph Ball ability to climb on walls. And even in the Metroid Prime games, the Spider Ball was not quite as useful as it is here, because in those games you could only use it on certain surfaces in the serves. Hello, Second Tier Guardian. Thank you for jumping in. It's a pleasure to have you involved. Okay, we still haven't been able to locate that Metroid. Actually, hold on a second. Now that we have the Spider Ball, we need to do a little exploring. That Metroid should be somewhere